asylum, but see, with my Canadian passport.
Well, it's impossible, right?
Yeah. So I go all the way down there. I take the bus from York, which is the north of England, go all the way down to Surrey, which is outside of London.
Yeah.
To this industrial zone, and there's this home office.
Okay.
This bleak-looking 20-story building in the middle of nowhere, and outside was a lineup of like Africans, and they're all like going for asylum, refugee status, and all that. So I said, okay, I guess this is where I gotta go. So I go and I line up, and they're all looking, they're all talking amongst themselves. You know, they have probably a long road to get to where they are, right? So they're all exchanging stories.
Of course.
And they're looking at each other's passports, and then one guy looks at me and he sees me with my Canadian passport. He looked at me and goes, "What are you doing here?" "What are you doing here?" I said, "I'm immigrating to England." Yes. When I come back from Venezuela, I said I want to travel because of that whole thing. My parents sent me at the age of 16 to Europe for a whole summer. 13 countries.
It was another story.
And that's when I knew, I said, I have to come back and live in Europe. I just loved it. I said, I loved it. It was a great time to go. In hindsight, it was the best thing. I hated it when I was there, but in hindsight, it was the best thing.
Right.
Because it changed me forever and ever. And it gave me that bug that of not being afraid to move to another place.
Right.
And so on.
Right.
So Alex, cheers.
Cheers.
Let me ask you this question. What year did we meet?
93.
Mm-hmm.
93.
What month?
September.
Yes. In the line of certain countries,
That's right. We were going to register.
That's right.
And I remember you came up and you asked me, you didn't ask me, you said, "It's beautiful weather today." It was like an icebreaker. And we were going to do some tests or something in that gymnasium.
Oh, registration.
Yeah, registration. Yeah. But yeah, you came up to me and you talked about the weather, and then 1993.
1993, right?
Yeah.
So this was now I have to tell you that you are the first native speaker and my friend that I've met in Canada.
No joke.
And since then, we've kept contact.
Yes, right?
This is almost 30 years. Can you believe it? Next year will be 30 years.
30 years, yeah.
Wow. I haven't known my Polish friends for so long.
I know. Isn't that great?
When I was in Poland, right?
For real? No, we've kept in contact. Even when I was living in Europe, you're I think the only Canadian friend that kept in contact with me. You would call me and something like that.
Right, exactly.
A lot of times you're out of sight, out of mind. People, when you're far away,
they
lose contact. But no, you and I always kept in contact.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So the first 2 years of school, and then regular meetups, and
That's right.
going out here and there, right? Yeah. And the biggest one for me was visiting you in France.
That was a good one.
So this again, brings me.
You were the only friend.
Who came. That's right.
Yes,
that's right. But that I have immigrant blood.
Yes.
And that's why probably this is one of the answers.
Must be. Yeah. No, for sure.
So I was wondering because that brings a question, right?
Yeah.
That begs a question, actually, right?
Yeah.
How did you end up in France, right? Because you are Canadian, born Canadian. However, from immigrants' parents.
Yeah, both. Yeah.
Right? Your mom is from
Venezuela.
And your father?
From
Trinidad, right? And they came over here, and you were born afterwards, right?
Yeah.
So you spend your young life, and
probably up until 12,
part of your adult life as well, right?
Yeah, when I came in.
But I remember you also had a 2-year adventure. You told me about it back to Venezuela because your mom had this nostalgia to go back to her home country.
That's right. Yeah.
And you had no choice but to join.
No,
right?
At 12 years old, you just follow.
You were 12 years, right?
Yeah.
12 years old, right? I see. Yeah. Can you briefly explain how you felt at that time? Because you were immigrant to Venezuela.
Exactly.
You were not. This was not your home country, right?
No. I was exactly. In a nutshell, my mom's from Venezuela and my dad's from Trinidad.
every summer we'd go back to Venezuela for vacation. So I was familiar with Venezuela. But when you're on vacation, it's vacation. It's fiesta. It's family. Everyone's great. Everyone's having a great time. And then my mom would come back here and it would be, cold weather and so on like that. So she started missing Venezuela. She thought, well, if I go back to Venezuela, everything's gonna be great. It's super time.
Like vacation.
Like vacation. So after 21 years of living in Canada, they decided to move back to Venezuela. My siblings were much older than me, so they had their life already. They were both, I think, early 20s. They decided not to go. Mm-hmm. So I went by myself with my parents at the age of 12. And we lived there for 3 years.
I see.
Yeah, 13, 14, 15. Hard years. That's a bad age, 13, 14, 15.
Yeah.
But I think that's an age where you're coming to learn about everything, right? Exactly. Formative years and so on. So it was a great time to go. In hindsight, it was the best thing. I hated it when I was there, but in hindsight, it was the best thing.
Right.
Because it changed me forever and ever. And it gave me that bug that of not being afraid to move to another place.
Right.
And so on.
Right. That's a big one, right?
So,
but I was wondering because I can't remember exactly how that went with your language, Spanish, right?
So
because did you speak any Spanish before moving to Venezuela?
No. Like every good Latin American mother, they put their kids in like Sunday school to learn Spanish, but no one ever learns anything in Sunday school. My dad, almost, yeah. My dad, coming from an English-speaking country, my mom spoke English at home with them. We all spoke English. I didn't I didn't know anything other than counting to 5 or something like that. So we went down, and they didn't put me in an American school. They didn't put me in a British school. They put me in a Venezuelan school, grade 8. I went right in the deep end. And
so you said you only knew how to say hello.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly. A few words, hola, abuela, tío, tía, the stuff, because that was family stuff. We're there, and it was a great time to be in Venezuela. This was in 1986. This was a great time to be in Venezuela. Venezuela was like amazing, pre-Chavez, pre all that problem that's going on now.
Right.
So it was a great age. It was a great moment in Venezuelan history, and it couldn't have been any better. I mean, it was the best thing my parents ever did for me.
I see.
And so
in hindsight,
right?
Not at that time.
I don't think anything when you're 13, 14, 15 years old makes you happy. But in hindsight, you look back and you go, "Oh,
that was great."
I had amazing memories, and I came back later. And all my friends hadn't changed a bit. And I was like, wow, I had lived and experienced so many things that they didn't have a chance to because I lived, abroad. But it was hard. Like I said, language.
So because I'm comparing to my daughter, Julia, right? When she came, same thing. She was even younger because she came here when she was 7, right? And you know how it is, right? We enrolled her in English school, right? In Ontario, right? Mississauga.
Yeah.
And her first day, just walk in.
Yeah.
And sit down.
Yeah.
And there you go.
Here we
go. Starting learning.
That's right. Yeah.
No word of English.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's how she learns. So when she tells me the stress that she had and everything, but I'm sure I have to ask her about the hindsight meaning of it, right?
Yeah. No, it's good. I think already at 12 years old, I think you're at the end of being a child, and like I was already a Canadian. Even if I lived here for the rest of my life, I was already a North American. My way of thinking and all that.
Right.
And I don't think that would have ever changed. I think when you're like 7 or 5 like that, you can become another nationality still.
Right.
But at 12, I think that's the mark. I would always have an accent, for example, if I spoke Spanish.
I see.
Because the first 12 years of my life, I spoke English.
But this is cool over there, right? Isn't it?
Yeah.
Cool?
Well, funny. Not too many people would immigrate to South America, right? So they weren't too fond of foreigners. They would call me gringo and stuff like that. I was like,
see.
I remember one time I went to school, and these Venezuelans of Portuguese descent, they were laughing at my accent because I'd say something, then I went home crying. And I was like, what's wrong? I said, well, they told me to go back home, Mom goes, You go back, you tell them you're more Venezuelan than them.
I see.
And so it was very weird because I'm like, even though I wasn't born in Venezuela, my mom's heritage is very Venezuelan. My mom is very Venezuelan. So I was going to a place I was familiar with, thinking it would be like a fish in water. It wasn't the case. I was like, all of a sudden.
Probably 12 years old is already too advanced.
Yeah.
Right? If you were like 5 or 6.
Yeah,
right?
exactly. Then there would be no problem. Kids are,
right?
Kids are mean at every age, but I think it.
But let me ask you this, because the language, right?
Yeah.
I remember you told me that after 3 years,
Yep.
you almost got it perfect.
Perfect.
Spanish,
yes.
Right? What do you mean by almost?
They say when you start to dream in that language,
yes,
that means it's in you now. And I was dreaming, thinking, talking to myself sometimes in Spanish. So it was becoming very second nature. Was coming like, yeah. And first of all, it's a nice language, a beautiful language. It's easy,
right,
to learn. I even said when I moved back to Canada, I said, you know what? Maybe if I go to post-secondary, like university or something like that, I'd go back to University of Columbia or something like that, just to University in Mexico or something like that. Yeah. But I was that comfortable in Spanish that I was willing to do my post-secondary down in Latin America again.
Right.
It never happened. I ended up in Sheridan College, as you know.
There you go. So you now, one more question about Venezuela.
Yeah.
What made you or your parents actually decide to come back to Canada after 3 years?
After 3 years, 2 reasons. One, when you're in vacation somewhere, it's vacation. Everyone's smiling. Everyone's, happy to see you. But when you live somewhere, the party's got to end. My dad went to work. My dad did not feel there, like at home ever.
Was he speaking Spanish?
He was working in an insurance company and he had translators. So he was speaking Spanish, around, but at work he spoke English.
Okay.
And so, it was hard on him. He would have been in his mid-40s.
But he learned it over there.
He was learning. Yeah, he was learning.
Okay, I see.
And it was, and then political. Then it started getting crazy. They had a president elected named Carlos Andres Perez, who was kind of right wing, and then things started happening. So the fact that it wasn't as fun as it was in my mom's mind going back to Venezuela,
right?
Because reality kicks in, and the political environment was starting to change.
Mm-hmm.
And then I got held up at gunpoint. So then my dad said, yeah. He says, oh, okay, I don't think this is a great place. We lived in Burlington, suburbia. Everything was fine. And all of a sudden now I'm getting held up by the gunpoint.
Gun to your head.
Yeah.
Holy moly.
Yeah. I got held up twice. One with a gun, one time with a broken
by
bottle.
Police, right?
No. These are just people that wanted, one wanted my radio.
The
other time. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Oh gosh.
Yeah. And another time was because someone wanted my shoes. So,
Say it again?
They wanted my shoes.
Really?
Yeah. So it was,
wow.
Yeah. So my parents would, because they know it was hard on me going down there and the age and everything like that, they try to make me comfortable. So they got me a dog because I wanted a dog. They got me a bicycle. I wanted a bicycle. I wanted a skateboard. They got me a skateboard. But then I couldn't go out and use the skateboard because someone would take it from me. The bicycle, I just went around the parking lot in my building because I knew if I went out in the street, it was going to be a one-way, I'd be walking home.
Gun ownership is like,
all, that wasn't,
that
wasn't like that. That came after. When we left, then I'm not sure where these guns came from, wherever, Colombia, Brazil, I'm not sure, or maybe United States even. But when we were there, it wasn't the case. It was just unorganized petty theft.
I see. Okay.
People that were poor that would come down and get what they wanted.
And mug others, right?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So when the whole gunpoint thing happened, that's when my dad said, that's it. We're going back to Canada. So after 3 years, we came back to Canada.
I see. Okay. That was it. And your mom was, okay, let's...
Oh, no, she got it out of her system. Like you were saying about Mississauga, you left, you feel a little better now. It's the same thing. My mom got it out of her system. She went back to Venezuela and realized that after 21 years living in Canada, she became Canadianized.
Yes.
She became Canadian. We would eat bacon and eggs for breakfast.
Right.
And people were like, so she became Canadianized more than she thought she was. Right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
You don't realize.
We didn't know she didn't. It creeps up on you. Right. And we had a toaster. Our house was something out of a
Canadian house.
Canadian house. And my cousins and all that would come in and like, this is so foreign.
Right.
My mom just like, well, this is how we did in Canada. So my mom had become Canadian, even though she fought it when she was here.
Right.
When she went there, she couldn't help it, but she became Canadian. And then she got out of her system. She realized she wasn't as Venezuelan as she thought.
Right.
She came back to Canada at peace.
I see.
And never looked back.
Looked back.
I think maybe they went back on vacation once.
Yeah, I've heard similar stories from Polish migrants.
Yeah.
In Canada, going back to Poland, right?
Nostalgia.
And then after 1-2 years, they were back.
Exactly.
Right?
Nostalgia.
Depends. It also depends how long they stayed here. Okay, because if someone comes here for 1 or 2 years,
right,
it's a different story.
Yeah.
But if someone stays here for 15, 20, right, then you get Canadianized,
yeah,
right?
Exactly.
And it's hard.
I think
to
it starts
get
like
it
around
out
5. It starts to you start to pick up the habits.
After 5 or 10 years, I would say.
Yeah.
10 years, it's the threshold.
Threshold.
I think.
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah.
Okay, so that is in your youth when you were like between 12 and 15.
Yes.
But then your immigration type of urge didn't stop there, right? Your mom's urge, came onto you, right? When you met your wife.
Yeah.
And decided to go to France to live with her over there.
Right.
Right. So I want to hear.
Yeah.
So you met Coralie. I don't know exactly how old you were at that time, but it's you spent like a few years here, and then she had to go back to France,
right?
And you followed her.
So I was
right.
Yes. When I come back from Venezuela, I said I want to travel because of that whole thing. My parents sent me at the age of 16 to Europe for a whole summer. 13 countries.
That was another story.
And that's when I knew. I said, I have to come back and live in Europe. I just loved it.
Mm-hmm.
I said, I loved it.
I
came back to Canada.
So two things came together. Coralie and your desire to live there.
Well, yeah. Well, my desire to live there happened at 16. I was like, that's why I ended up taking travel and tourism with you, because I wanted to be, as before Coralie.
Right.
So I wanted to live in Europe no matter what. And I was on a mission. I was going to be a tour guide. I'd be
turn out to be Mission Possible.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah, Mission Possible. So I come back. I'm focused on that and only that throughout high school into college, and I go to England and I do all that sort of thing. I get a job in a French hotel,
right?
Novotel in Etobicoke.
Yes,
and
here in Toronto.
In Toronto. And I remember I came in to use the payphone, actually. I came in to use the payphone, and they had a huge map of the world, and it had all the dots where these hotels were. And when I saw it, they were all over the world. I was like, I got to work at this hotel. So I can start going everywhere. So I applied at Novotel, good company. Then this foreign student comes over on an HR department. That's Coralie. We hit it off. After 6 months, she goes back to Europe, but she wanted to better her English, so she decided to go to England.
Okay.
So I said, okay, well, if you're going to England, I'm coming too. So I went.
All right.
Yeah.
So you went to England first?
We went to England. Yeah, I spent like 2 months there to York.
I don't remember that one.
Yeah, to York. Amazing place.
I see. Yeah, okay. So you met over there again, working in a hotel.
Yeah. Right? Well, she was working in a hotel.
Okay.
And I was just kind of, tutoring English to other French and Italian people that were working at the hotel. It was very multicultural, this hotel.
I wasn't aware of that. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. But this is all kind of like, cash money, just.
Right.
And, we did that for a while, but obviously, I couldn't get papers. I tried to get papers. It was funny. while I was there, I said, I'm going to take a bus down to London,
okay,
and apply for an asylum. But see, with my Canadian passport,
well, it's impossible.
Yeah. So I go all the way down there. I take the bus from York, which is the north of England, go all the way down.
I go all the way down to Surrey, which is outside of London, to this industrial zone, and there's this home office.
Okay.
This bleak-looking 20-story building in the middle of nowhere, and outside was a lineup of like Africans, and they're all like going for asylum, refugee status, and all that. So I said, okay, I guess this is where I gotta go. So I go and I line up, and they're all looking, they're all talking amongst themselves. You know, they had probably a long road to get to where they are, right? So they're all exchanging stories.
Of course.
And they're looking at each other's passports, and then one guy looks at me, and he sees me with my Canadian passport. He looked at me and goes, "What are you doing here? What are you doing here?" I said, "I'm immigrating to England."
That's funny. Yeah. I'm sure you didn't wait until you got the reception there.
Well, no, I did. I said, I came this way.
Yeah. What did they say?
So I got there.
They must have laughed
They said,
at you,
they said, "Where? What are you here for?" I said, "Well, I want to get my there's a fancy name for it, right to abode. I think they call it. Yeah, it's a visa. It's a visa, but it's a fancy name. So I wanted my right to abode, and they said, "Well, listen, you go back to Canada, okay, and just go to the embassy. You don't need to be here. This is not the place for you. It's refugees, you know." I said, "You're not running." He said something like, "You're not running away or prosecuted." I said, "No, let's get out of here." So yeah, I remember that. So I got back in my bus, went back to Europe. Then I came to England, came back to Canada, and I tried to get my British citizenship through my father, because my father was born in a British colony. He had British citizenship when he was born. He was a British subject. So I see if I could, make something happen. So I take my father's British birth certificate and passport, and I went to the embassy, and I said, "Listen, I want to get my British citizenship through my father." And the lady looked at it and she goes, "Listen, I don't think it's going to happen, but I'm going to put it through anyway. I'll just put the application in."
Okay.
And then 2 months later they said, "No, your father was not a British subject when you were born." So the year I was born, my father had already lost his British citizenship. He became a Trinidadian citizen.
I see.
It's a technicality.
So they already had independence.
Yeah, independence in 65.
Yeah.
So so that's
because it's the same as Canada, right? Canada used to be a colony, now it's Commonwealth, so they are Commonwealth.
Yeah, exactly.
I
just thought I would try, give it a shot.
Oh yeah.
But then I heard that there was a Franco-Canadian visa, so I could live and work in France. There was an agreement between Canada and France.
Okay.
For 6 months.
Okay.
You just needed private insurance and so much money in the bank. So I went over, and those 6 months ended up being 6 years.
Mm-hmm.
That was my retirement before retirement. It was fantastic, because living in the south of France is not a hard thing to do.
Right.
It was great.
Okay, so we are coming to that important point in your life when you moved to France, and you actually moved to live with Coralie, right? And and I was there. You invited me. I came for a couple of weeks. It was a great time. I have vivid memories and loved it.
The Roman Colosseum, remember?
Oh, Roman Colosseum.
It was awesome.
Oh, that was the best, right? But this memory comes with this question, right? When you went, okay, I was still here, because you spent probably a couple of years before I visited you, right? Mm-hmm. And I remember one thing that you, because when we were here in Canada and we were seeing each other, talking all kinds of different subjects, you looked at me, I don't know. An immigrant came here to learn English. Sometimes you had fun. Probably you had fun from my English, right? And I was really appreciating the fact that I was having a Canadian friend, so I could also practice my English, right? So So, and then you left, right? You went to France. And one, I can't remember, I will never remember that phone call, right? And we were speaking for a few hours at a time, but one time, I think you reached certain threshold, right, of realization that you became an immigrant there.
Yeah.
Actually, okay? Yeah. And you called me, you know, or I called you, I can remember exactly how that went, but you said, I remember that, Chris, I understand you now. I understand you.
Yeah.
What did you mean by that? Explain.
Well, okay, well, this town I lived, thank God it was the way it was, because I wouldn't have learned French if I lived in Paris as well as I did living in the town I lived.
Right.
There weren't too many immigrants living in this town. It's very French. And I think I realized that it would, no matter how long I stayed and lived there or tried to become French, it was never going to happen. Mm-hmm. The language, it's not Spanish, okay? If you don't, you don't learn it by birth. You'll never have that rolling R, and so
right.
It was very difficult. People would go, "Oh, you have an accent." It was nonstop. They just kept on reminding you that you're not from here. You know? You're not from here. And no matter, I felt good. I felt it was fine. But it was just a constant reminder. And it's not like Canada where we always try to, multiculturalism, and they keep on promoting people to hold on to their heritage and this and that and the other. Venezuela and France, it's more like, you're in France. These are the rules. We do things a certain way. We eat a certain time. We have these traditions, and it's just this is like hundreds and hundreds of years of tradition.
Right. You have to follow.
Yeah, they got to follow. And I was okay with most of it. I mean, there were some things I never really got used to, but just constantly be reminded that you're a foreigner. After kind of it weighs on you. It started to get on my nerves.
I see.
Every single time you open your mouth, someone looks at you like, whatever we were talking about. I was, where are you from? Oh, you're from Canada. Oh, and it was just like, it couldn't get further than that all the time. It was.
I see.
Yeah.
So very often you were hooked on these questions and queries, right? About your past and where you came from. Accent.
Yeah. It's actually funny. At one point, I thought to myself, I found out through some flyer or whatever that perhaps there was a group of English people living in my town, and they get together every Wednesday or something like that, and they just talk. But they were all from England or Scotland and all that. No one was from North America, but they were Anglos, and I said, okay, I'll just try to check it out. Those are people who were a lot older than I was. I was in my late 20s, early 30s.
It was still in Narbonne?
It was in Narbonne, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I didn't even know they were there. It was just like, they lived amongst themselves and so on. These are people that were there for a long time, never spoke a word of French. They were very cut off from the country that they moved to. It was so strange, and I didn't fit in there either. Even though I was curious to hear people speaking my language.
To go, I didn't fit in. It was oddly. Yeah.
I see. Now, in your case, I can see one major difference between someone like me in Canada and you in France, because you had a family there, right?
Yeah.
So it was much easier for you.
My in-laws, you mean?
Sorry?
My in-laws.
Your in-laws, your wife,
yeah.
right? And it was. I'm looking at the Diego, Paulina. It's very completely different, right? When you have a family. Over in Canada, right?
Yeah.
And in your case, it was in a similar fashion, right? So I think, and it's not only, the fact that you can lean on something, that you can have company, but also language wise, you can learn much faster, right? All those, are positive aspects of that, right?
Yeah.
So I'm sure that's the difference that I see, right? But, But in terms of realization that you still, could not match everything there, right? That was maybe expected from you, right?
Yeah.
Or you thought it was, right? Made you question certain things, right? Correct?
Well, I knew when I became 30 that I was ready to be a father, to start my family. I knew in my head I was ready for that. And because my upbringing here in Canada was perfect, wouldn't change a day. It was awesome. I said, you know what? I'm here in France. I don't understand the school system. It was still there's a lot of questions, and I didn't feel really comfortable raising a family there. I would have felt, I don't know. Didn't really feel comfortable with it. At the same time, at the same age, 30, maybe I was getting a little bit homesick. Before I was all gung-ho, I was maybe a little bit homesick. Parents were getting a little bit older. There's a few things going on at the same time. But I want more or less wanting to start a family and get a better job too. That's another thing. In France, you get a job. A lot of people just stick with that job for their life. And I didn't see any future there. And that's how Ireland comes up.
Right. So that's my next question. Yeah. Why Ireland? Why did you
So during that year, I think it was 2005, 2004, 2005, they had the Celtic Tiger. Ireland is booming.
Right. It was, there was a time. Yes.
Yeah, it was booming. Everything was happening in all the American companies like Coca-Cola, Yahoo, Amazon. They were all in Dublin. And that's where it was happening. And then I was in my little town in France and nothing was happening. And I tried to look for better jobs and nothing is happening. It's not necessarily what you know, it's who you know. A lot of that, So I said, Carly, we're going to take a Ryanair flight to Dublin and see what's going on. I had my resume under my pocket. Let's see, we'll do something. We were there for like 3 days.
Okay.
3 days, I had 3 job offers, like hotel management positions, getting paid well. And it was just like that easy. 3 days, and I spent 3 years trying to find a better job in Narbonne. It wasn't happening, and here all of a sudden, I was like, "This is great."
Yeah.
So then we moved back to France. We came back to France after the vacation. We thought maybe we'll go to England, or we'll go to Ireland. And my wife was like, "Oof, look how you're suffering with your French here. No, I'm going to be having the same feeling in Ireland," because she couldn't understand what the hell they were saying. The accent's quite strong.
Over there,
the English she knows is from speaking with me in her little stint in Toronto, So she's like, I understand it. So I decided, I understand, okay. And then we discussed Canada, actually. She's offered, if we go back to Canada, but we live in Quebec, what do you think of that? I said, that's great. It's perfect. So we said we'd come back to Canada.
I see.
Yeah.
I see.
So
it hinged on the language.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
She saw I wasn't not comfortable. I didn't want her to feel that way too in Ireland. So she said move to Canada. I was like, I was ready. And then, but she said, I could speak my mother tongue in Quebec, and then it'd be a win-win.
Exactly.
So. That's how we ended.
That's how the decision came about, right? I see. So it took you 5 years of living in France to find yourself back in Canada, right?
Okay, and when I left, it was forever. It was not. I wasn't supposed to come back. We had sold everything.
So Coralie is happy because you are in Quebec, where French is official language, right? Yeah. And you are happy because across the street you have across the river, right? You have Ottawa speaking English, but you also speak French quite well. Right?
I'm sure if I lived in Toronto, I would miss hearing French around on a daily basis.
Right.
Even I got so used to it in France that I'm glad living here in Elmer. It's kind of like
it doesn't let you forget your French.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Yeah,
exactly. That's great. Yeah. That's great. So that brings me to another question. Because looking at your past, Venezuela, England, that I learned today, although 2 months, but still, right? France, back to Canada, Quebec, right? Quebec is like a little bit. It's a country within a country, right? Kind of thing, right?
Yes.
With the autonomy that all these provinces have, Quebec is even more autonomous, right? So you feel
when you're here. You know when
exactly. So you've had a few episodes of that experience as immigrant, right? And emigrant, right? So my question is, are you fixed in your mind to stay of staying here in Quebec, or do you have in your back on your mind, okay, maybe in the next few years we may move maybe to France, maybe some other place, that would kind of fulfill your dreams, maybe?
This is my favorite question because, yes, I'm an immigrant and an immigrant, and I'm going back and forth. Now I can tell you with ease, both my wife and I agree, when we retire, we would like to live somewhere warmer. We're not fans of winter.
I have the same dream.
Yeah. We live somewhere warmer. But we have 2 daughters that are here. They're growing up here, 12 and 10. Right? So there'll always be a connection to come back to Canada. Our dream is to be like 6 months, summer and fall, perhaps.
We
here
think the same way.
Elmer. 6 months minus a day in warmer climes. Not sure where. One of the nice perks of having a European passport, a French passport, especially, is that, there are a lot of islands in the Caribbean that we can just move there like seamlessly without any having to apply or, go for refugee status.
Exactly. Asylum.
So, that's in the head. We could live anywhere in Europe. I mean, like Spain. Spain is great, but definitely, I could not see myself as an elderly person living here in Canada. I see my own parents getting older and, being cooped up in the house. Put COVID aside. They're being cooped up in the house a lot throughout the winter.
Right.
And, I can't see that being very, very good.
Entertaining.
Yeah.
Right?
So I think we're living in an area where you're comfortable all the time.
Right.
So I'm excited for retirement now that I'm coming to an age where retirement's kind of the back of my head now for the first time.
Right.
I know definitely there's going to be 6 months here, definitely, because this is home. But there's going to be 6 months somewhere else.
But you haven't decided yet on which country.
No.
But there are so many, right?
I know. That's what I'm saying.
When I think about finding a place, not necessarily 6 months, but because I still think about Poland, right? Like I think about Canada. I have my family here, right? I think about Poland because my mind is also Polish, right?
Yeah.
But I also think about another place like yourself, right? In some other place, warmer place, right? The first thing right now that like a criteria, the first criteria that I'd be putting on the first place, in the first place, right, would be the language. It has to be English. It has to be English.
Yes.
For me, right?
I get
Between you and Coral, you would have to decide. But
absolutely, there's no doubt about it. We've both gone through that whole learning a new language, like yourself. It's not fun. I don't think anyone enjoys learning a new language, making mistakes, speaking like a 2-year-old for like 3 years of your life as an adult, rehearsing how you're going to ask, can I buy that baguette? Is it masculine? Is it feminine? It's nerve wracking.
I'm telling you, it's especially when you turn 40, 45, or 50. Like you can't do that again and again and again. I thought I could do it in Montreal, but it is so much harder when you are my age, as opposed to when I was 25. When we met.
That's right. That's right. Of course, when you get older, you care less about what people think. Right? If you make a mistake, well, who cares, But that comes with age. But I know language is very, very important. And one thing that's important to us is we want to live somewhere where there's at least, we want to live in a third world country because we're looking for palm trees. We'd definitely live maybe in a French overseas territories like Martinique or something like that.
Right.
Because there's infrastructures, hospitals, there's a level of
we are not going to be younger.
Yeah,
right?
exactly. So that's high on our list.
Right.
We want to live somewhere where we can at least have the services.
Right.
So it's maybe Spain or Portugal or something like that. But again, Portugal, back to learning a new language, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, Portugal is very popular now, right now.
Yeah, it is. Yeah,
among retirees.
Yes,
right?
Exactly.
But you're still looking at in such a case, you look for enclaves of your own people, who this is not my
that's
thing,
not my style. It's not my style. Being from Toronto, you see these enclaves of immigrants living in these little areas, and they're like in their own little ghetto. They live in their own thing. They never become Canadian. The first generation of immigrants, quite often is a lost generation.
Right.
They come, they work.
Yeah.
They don't kind of adopt a new country because they've passed that age where they just don't feel comfortable.
Things come easy, right?
Yeah. And then the second generation have it easier.
Mm-hmm.
They're born, they go to school in Canada, they become Canadianized, and so on. They can still say whatever, I'm Italian and this and that and the other, but the first generation of immigrants are always the one who takes the hardest, I find.
Yes. It doesn't apply to their kids anymore.
No,
right?
No, yeah.
I can tell from my experience.
Yeah,
right?
Exactly.
So no, that's great. So I would have tons more questions, for you on many other subjects, and I hope we can continue some other time.
Yeah.
We've always talked a lot.
Always.
Discover things and dig deeper, and things.
We have a lot of things in common. We like history. We like
geography,
culture, geography. No, we have a lot in common, and I think that's why over the years we kept on getting in contact with each other.
We like to discuss. Right?
Yeah.
That's great. So thank you, Alex. It was great that finally we met and had this first conversation.
Yeah.
To be continued.
Okay.
Hopefully soon.
Perfect.
That's great.
My pleasure.